When I got out, I had no medical records pointing at anything. I didn't have a diagnosis. By every measure, I basically had zero to work with, no case. I started at 0% just like a lot of you. A few years later, I got to 100% permanent total. This is exactly step by step what I did and what I learned about the VA and the claims process. I want to teach you. This isn't theory. This is the real deal. I'm going to guide you through what I did, the path I took. Even if you feel like you don't have enough, you have zero, right? I can show you, I can help you what you need to do. If you have stuff, it's even better. So what do I mean when I said I didn't have a case? I didn't have a diagnosis. I got out of the Army. I avoided the military, the VA, everything around that like the plague. Didn't have any records on hand. Didn't have anything I could physically look at. Felt like I had zero to go on, right? But after doing some learning about the PACT Act, and I saw what presumptives were, and I saw what other veterans had done similar things. You're in combat arms, there's a lot of things you can go for, low-hanging fruit. We shot a lot of guns in the infantry. Tinnitus is a very real thing for us. If you're jumping out of planes, your feet, knees, back, those are very real things. So if you're starting from zero or you feel like you have nothing to look at right now, you actually do. Your body, your mind are keeping record of those things right now. You probably feel them and live with them every day and think it's normal, or you're just pushing through like you did when you were in service, right? That was a very normal cultural thing to just tough it out, to push through, to not go to sick call, okay? So that's not normal. When you talk to people outside the military, talk to providers, they'll tell you that's not normal. That's not a normal life. I know we think that it is, and we were taught to just be tough, but right now is not the time to be tough if you're thinking about submitting a claim. You need to tell people about your worst case, right? And you can think about those times. They happen all the time. You have flare-ups. They happen day to day, week to week. You just think they're part of your normal life, and your family and friends also think that's just who you are and a part of your normal life. But it's not, okay? So you're not starting from zero, and even if you are, you have stuff to go on. All right, so let's talk about my first claim, right? So after I realized there's some things going on here, I had family and friends pushing me to get checked out. I said, okay, cool, I'll look this up. You know, there's guides online, there's lots of YouTube videos, but I wasn't really prepared for the process. I went for hearing loss and tinnitus. As an infantryman, that's like some low-hanging fruit. We all have ringing in our ears from shooting Carl Gustavs, from, you know, being in a shoot house and some rando decides to throw a flashbang in the room when you're just standing there with no ear pro in. Kind of funny at the time, but long term, that's what gives you tinnitus, that ringing that's just there all the time, or the flare-ups that cause you to flinch. You're like, holy, what was that? You know, your auditory exams before service or right when you join, and then the ones that you take when you get out can show your hearing loss. Hearing loss is typically pretty hard to connect, but when you submit a claim, they'll do a hearing test on you. They'll review that stuff. So I got service connected for tinnitus, but I got rejected for my back. I had some back issues. Didn't know what I was doing when I submitted my claim. I literally didn't submit any evidence with it. I just went to the C&P exam. Didn't even know what a C&P exam was. Didn't know what a nexus was. A nexus is what establishes service connection. So when you go to a C&P exam, the examiner is going to listen to your story, listen to your symptoms. You may not say much. You may say a lot, but they're going to be the ones that determine whether that condition is connected to your service. So was there an event that took place that caused it? Do you have a diagnosis? They can diagnose you there. And then also they're going to listen to your symptoms. How do those symptoms manifest in your day-to-day life? Professionally, personally, you know, what's the overall impact? Ultimately, behind the scenes, that gets put onto a DBQ and that becomes your rating. So these are all different things and they all need to happen for you to have a successful claim. I didn't know these things, so I didn't get service connected for any back issues. After that first claim, I realized, oh wow, like I definitely had back issues, but why did they not service connect me? Why didn't I get a rating? I started learning about the VA's process, what they're looking for, what a rater's looking for. They need a nexus. They need symptoms. Those symptoms map to specific tables in the CFR. You'll hear people talk about that, right? There's like 0% ratings, so you can be service connected at 0%. And there's 30, 50, 70, 100, just depends on what the condition is. In those tables, it'll tell you exactly, hey, if the veteran is experiencing or describing these symptoms, it can map to this rating. So those are the things that you're going to want to know going into a C&P exam. Because if you downplay what's going on in your life, or you don't want to open up about it, then they can't actually rate you correctly. So a lot of veterans do this and they go in there and they get a 0 rating, or they get a lower rating than they thought. And they're like, I'm not a 10, I'm not a 20. Like this stuff kills me. Like my back's killing me. I literally can't even work sometimes. That's what they need to know. So don't go in there being a tough guy or gal and not telling them about what's going on. So some of the takeaways are learning what a nexus is. You can go to the C&P exam and that service connection can be established, or you can go to your own provider and have them write a nexus. And there's a specific format to that. I have templates on the website. You guys can look at them. They're not for you to just write your stuff into. They're a reference. This is education, right? You look at it, learn what it is. If your provider doesn't know what that is, show them the template. But they need to write it in their own words, with their own literature, their own credentials, specifically about you, okay? Certain instances, they can do that for a DBQ, and you can submit that as extra evidence, but ultimately a CMP exam will be done and the provider there will be the one to determine that rating. All right, so let's move on to talking about evidence. The VA will have your records, so that's something you could look at if you really want to dig into them yourself. If you feel like you have a lot of stuff in your records and you don't have them, you can go to the National Personnel Records Center, I believe it is, and request them. Not physically go, but just request them online. There's a form. If you have them, dig through them. It's literally from the time in service. You probably have a doc that wrote it, so that's very credible. Another thing you can do is have buddy statements. So if you have a buddy from the time in service that was there when something happened, that's great too. They saw what happened. They can describe how it affects you after that. If you're still friends with them, they can describe how it affects you now. If your spouse knows that you snore a lot, or they watch you at nighttime because they're weirdos, but no, they're watching you at nighttime because you're snoring, you woke them up and they're like, dude, why are you sitting there like holding your breath or gargling or making all these weird noises? That could be a clue that you have sleep apnea. So your spouse can write a lay statement or a buddy statement in support of that as evidence. You could also write your own lay statement. So this is all extra evidence that you can submit with a claim. It's not required, but it's very helpful because it really helps the rater determine the severity. These are the symptoms. This is how it affects you personally, professionally. Not just your take on this. This is other people that were there, people that see you every day. They might fully describe it when you really don't. And that's very important. We're not trying to downplay things. You should be talking about things truthfully, but you should be talking about them in their worst shape, the worst day, your flare-ups, how it truly impacts you. You can also get your provider to write certain medical opinions. Very similar to a Nexus, you can get an independent medical opinion written by a provider. They've got credentials, right? They're doctors, they're PAs. The rater's going to look at this and take their words into consideration. Really good evidence to submit with your whole packet, and this could help you build a fully developed claim that can give the rater everything they need to make a quick decision. If you bundle it all and it's just there for them to review and to do their job and make a decision, it's going to go a lot quicker than if they have to sit there and request information from you, or you have to file an appeal or a supplemental claim because you didn't include all the evidence up front and you ended up getting rated lower. It's like I said earlier, if you're not saying your symptoms, how they affect you personally and professionally, and you're not actually speaking the truth, because most veterans don't, in the sense that they don't tell enough. They're trying to downplay things. They're trying to be tough. They're embarrassed. So when you write these statements, this is your opportunity to actually put it all out there. Same thing with your spouse. They're probably more than willing to write what actually happens because they're the ones that have to deal with you all the time and they're not getting compensated. So, look at the templates, don't fill them in, learn from them, write your own, pass them to your spouse. You can take them to a buddy you served with, and they're a great resource. They're free. Go download them. All right, let's get into secondaries. So a secondary condition is something that was caused or worsened by your primary. So easy example, PTSD. You can secondary sleep apnea off of PTSD. If you post that on the internet, a lot of people will say that's impossible, but people do it all the time. I've seen it happen. It's a hard one to do, but there is medical literature that shows that sleep apnea can be caused or worsened by PTSD. And there's other things, like if you have a condition they have to take medication for, your medication could be causing another condition. So you can get a secondary because of that. So your primaries are probably the things that you're going to file on your first or second claim, and they're going to get you a lot of your percentage. To get the remainder from 50, 60, 70 to 100, you're going to need secondaries. It's going to be very hard to just file one or two claims and go 0 to 100. So the secondaries are where a lot of people stop because they don't realize that they qualify for those. So on the website, manclaims.com, there's a tools section. Go there. There's a secondary condition tool. You're going to put in your primary, and it's going to list in order of strength what your secondaries are that you could qualify for. So you have to see, right? Do you actually have a diagnosis for this secondary? Is this thing actually happening? This is where we're being truthful. We're learning what we qualify for based on our symptoms. So use the tool. It's great. This is really what's going to make the difference later when you're looking for that last 30 to 40 percentile. And when you're including these secondaries in your claims, you can't just list them, right? You can't just say, sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. You need to spell out for them how and why. Include some literature, some studies. Okay, make it easy for them to make a decision. They want to help you out. I know a lot of people don't think that, but when they deny somebody, they have to write a long report as to why. So if you give them everything up front and you bundle it, it's going to make their job a lot easier. The path of least resistance for them is going to be approval. So do your work and it makes their job easier. All right, let's talk about VA math. A lot of people are highly confused about VA math. They'll file their first claim. They'll see something like, oh, you got 30%, you got 20%, you got whatever. And they're just adding the percentages up, like stacking, and it doesn't add up, right? So 50 plus 50 percentiles do not equal 100. This is what they equal. 50 and 50, 75%. It's really strange, but this is how it works. Let's say you get a 50%. What they're basically saying is the other 50% of you that's not disabled, that's your able body, if you get another 50% claim, it's against the 50% that's able. So you only get half, right? 50% of your new 50% is 25. So you're 50 disabled, the 25 from the new 50, and you get 75. So when you get to 90%, it's really hard. At 90%, you need 50% more to get to 100. Here's why. We'll explain the rounding. When you're at 90%, you only have 10% of your body that's able. So if you get a 50% condition connected on the 10% of your able body, they give you 5 points for that. So now you go from 95 or from 90 to 95, and 95 rounds to 100. So VA rounding, they round, right? If your, we'll call it raw score is 87, they'll round to 90. If your raw score is 91, they're gonna round down to 90. So you need to know your raw score. So I have a calculator, the tools section again, you can go there, use it, it's free. You'll see your raw score and you'll see your score with rounding. Last 10% jump is very hard. You need 50% more. So why is this important? When you're building your next claim, if in your head you're thinking, oh, I'm at 90, I just need to get to 100 with 10% more, and you pick something, let's say you haven't gotten tinnitus yet, and you're like, oh, I think I can qualify for tinnitus. Tinnitus will give me 10%. You file a claim, you get 10% for tinnitus, and you only get 1 point. You go from 90 to 91, you're like, what the heck? How's that work? Because you didn't know the math. And now you wasted time filing a claim for just one condition that didn't move the needle for you. And you probably waited a couple months for that to happen. So knowing your math can help you plan up front what you need to do within that claim to move to the next target. Okay? So very important. That's what took me from 0 to 100. I didn't do it in one shot. It took a lot of learning, a lot of preparation. I read a lot of forums, posts in Facebook groups, watched a lot of videos, talked to other veterans about it, and I submitted fully developed claims. It made the VA's job a lot easier that they could just look at my stuff and be like, this is a solid packet. Dude's a Ranger, did some of this crazy stuff. Oh yeah, like there's definitely medical literature that supports this. This is a shoe-in. This is easy. Boom, approved. You don't do that, you're going to get less than you deserve. You're going to get a lower rating. You're going to probably file a supplemental. You might go to higher level review. Some people get frustrated in that process, or they get stuck in some long queue. They hire a lawyer. They spend more money than they need to. Vets, people like me, have walked the path. We've learned it, and we're showing you the way. You just need to do the homework. Be patient. Get your stuff up front. File the claim. Okay, you can file it yourself. Keep all of your back pay. You don't need to give it to somebody that takes 5x of your increase month to month. You don't need to pay 30% of your back pay. You can learn all this on your own. You don't need to pay me a dime. You want me to be there and to show you every single little thing that I learned, kind of hold your hand. I can do that. I did this before there was AI. Buddy did it before there was AI. I talked to him on the phone for about an hour one day, just taught him everything I learned. And then he called me up another day and said, hey, I got some of these things. I got some questions. We went over it again, maybe 15, 20 more minutes. He went 0 to 100 in 12 months when the VA had ridiculous wait times, and he just knocked it out. There's a lot of people that can do that right now, and then just wasting time. And every month that passes is money that you're not going to get back. You submit an intent to file right now, you can lock in that date. But if you don't do anything, you are losing compensation every single day. Every month that passes is $4,000 that you could get if you were at 100%. So think about that. I put the exact starting point, the 7 places I learned to look in my own records, into a free checklist. No cost, no catch. The link's in my bio or in a comment pinned down below. If you're a vet rated under 100% and you have service-connected conditions, go grab it and run it against your own files. Comment down below the craziest thing that ever happened in the barracks.